Gentrification has been a social issue around the world for decades. However, this issue is extremely prevalent in Boston, Massachusetts. So what is gentrification? According to our research, which focused on housing, gentrification is the neighborhood change created by the displacement of residents and rise of costs of living.
Gentrification causes. There are many causes of gentrification. The three we view as most impactful are housing, big business, and affluence of the city. Big business moving into the neighborhoods increases housing prices since the economy improves. The affluence of the city leads people to move to the neighborhoods. They may be able to pay more than the original residents, causing housing costs to rise. Housing causes the residents to have to leave when the price to stay gets too high.
Gentrification impacts everyone within each neighborhood. Some of the effects are increased housing prices, displacement of residents, loss of neighborhood culture, and emotional distress. The following news report shows how gentrification and the rise in housing price has impacted two residents. The interviews are recorded at a City Life Vida Urbana protest against the housing crisis.
East Boston residents took to the streets last night in a march against displacement, as in many parts of Boston, residents are feeling pressure from the rising cost of housing. That especially goes for low-income families faced with steep rent increases. Last night's march was organized by City Life Vida Urbana to rally support for tenant protections.
There's this capital interest in developing the land, but most of the residents that live here, in fact 90% of the residents that live here, can't afford that future vision. And so 90% of the residents of East Boston are looking to be displaced because of the urban development that's occurring.
I feel a lot of stress and I'm very tired all the time because I have a son who has asthma and I don't have any other means of supporting myself. So it's very unfair that I was paying $600 for rent and within the next month I was suddenly raised to $1,300 of rent.
Both of these residents are facing the harsh effects of gentrification. Their housing prices have been increased, they're likely going to be displaced due to this high price, and their neighborhood is losing the culture it has with the influence of investment. They're both in emotional distress. She's very worried about her son and the effect that this is going to have on her and his life, and this just isn't fair to either of them. Housing as the main cause. As housing prices rise, renters become unable to keep up with their bills. They eventually are forced to move to neighborhoods where the conditions may be worse. This also causes the residents to be unable to stay in the neighborhoods where they grew up, which is very tough on the families.
Here are some organizations fighting gentrification. Dudley Street Initiative, also known as DSNI, is fighting for affordable housing and promoting community engagement on Dudley Street in Roxbury.
City Life Vida Urbana is fighting for racial, social, and economic justice and gender equality as well, by empowering the working class, mainly focused on fighting eviction.
Remain, Reclaim, and Rebuild Boston, also known as Just Cause Boston, is at the head of a large coalition of organizations preventing eviction by fighting for affordable housing for tenants.
One of the organizations in the coalition is City Life Vida Urbana. Family Aid addresses displacement by assisting evicted families to get their homes back.
Lastly, Reclaim Roxbury is an organization fighting for affordable housing within the Roxbury community.
All of these organizations are very impactful in the fight against gentrification. Community land trusts. Community land trusts are the best way to fight gentrification. Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative uses a community land trust and it has been very effective so far. With community land trusts, there are two main parts, the community and the family. Community owns land. The community can guarantee that when the family moves out, the house will go to low or middle income homeowners. They can also prevent foreclosure. The family owns the house. Families are able to own a home and pass it on to children without threat of rising rents, since the family owns the affordable home.
Gentrification is still an issue that is being fought today, both by residents and communities. With the help of organizations like the ones we mentioned, the problem can be dealt with. However, this social issue is one that's still an issue today and one we'll be fighting for years to come.